Hey everyone, Mystical Mark here. This will be your weekly astrology forecast for the week of December 31st, 2023 to January 6th of 2024. So this week we have Mercury going direct and Mars entering into Capricorn, so let's get into it. Alright, so this week we're going to start off on New Year's Eve here, December 31st of 2023, the last day of 2023. I bet everybody's glad to end the year. Even though astrologically it's not really the end of the year, it's the end of the year in our Gregorian calendar, whatever the hell it is, but that's just some arbitrary BS. To go along with the actual cycles of nature, the year doesn't really end, well, for me, as an astrologer, the new year doesn't start until the sun ingress Aries on the spring equinox. So, but let's not get into that. Anyway, so on Sunday here, the 31st, we're going to have Sun in trine to Black Moon Lilith here in Virgo. So Sun in Capricorn, we've got Black Moon Lilith here in Virgo, so we're dealing with Earth energy here. Moon will be in Virgo as well on this day, so we're kind of going to be very practical, detail-oriented. It could be, maybe stress kind of coming up, and that could relate to this trine as well here. Black Moon Lilith is that feminine rebel, right? Maybe looking at these details, seeing these things, and wanting to, take action maybe towards, changing things with this Sun in Capricorn here, setting boundaries in a sense as well. Because we do have this Sun here, it's also still in trine to Jupiter. Black Moon Lilith is also in trine to Jupiter, so there's kind of this grand trine that is happening here as well, with this Jupiter and Taurus that is now direct, kind of starting to move forward here. Jupiter is still kind of stopped, like it's barely moving, but it's starting to. But yeah, so with this grand trine here, we're dealing, it's very practical, earthly, grounded type energy. But of course, it could be dealing with aspects of self-worth, aspects of boundaries, aspects of this detail stuff. And with this Black Moon Lilith here, like I said, this is a trine, so this is a positive aspect. But we may feel kind of like this rebel, like we're wanting to push forward into some practical sense and change, especially since Jupiter is direct now. This energy is kind of moving forward. There's maybe we're wanting to expand on our goals here, expand on this rebellious type energy in its practical sense, moving away from these maybe ideals of perfection or these certain details and things that we've been noticing. We're really wanting to shift and change, set boundaries, focus on our self-worth, expand on what we see as valuable, set appropriate boundaries and goals, and in a sense, maybe even take control of our own life in a certain way there. And with this grand trine, these are kind of positive shifts and aspects that may happen in that regard. So maybe it's kind of the realization of that, New Year's end of the year, new directions we want to move in. We're kind of saying, we're not going to carry certain things maybe into 2024 in that sense. Maybe we're setting certain boundaries, expanding into areas of which we deem a value for ourselves, where we value our own self-worth and that kind of stuff, and where we're not hindering, this inner divine feminine rebel, and we're noticing these details and wanting to, take action, like I said, to set those boundaries and expand into ways that we deem valuable for ourselves, right? So that would be New Year's Eve. Let's move on here to New Year's Day. So on New Year's Day, we are going to have Mercury coming direct. Of course, this won't happen till about 8:07 p.m. Mountain Time, so it's not going to happen till basically around the end of the day. The Mercury will still be stationed, and again, on New Year's Eve, Mercury's basically going to be stopped. So New Year's Eve, we're kind of still in this limbo space. It's kind of like I talked about last week regarding, the Jupiter stationing direct as well, and Venus moving into Sagittarius. They're kind of in this mutual reception type energy, except not really, because there's some afflicting aspects, and Jupiter was retrograde, and it was just this kind of like you could feel change was coming, but it wasn't quite there yet. It was really emphasizing this stop and wait type energy. So we may still be feeling some of that here until basically the end of New Year's Day. When Mercury finally starts to go direct, and we kind of maybe, get some clarity or feel like we're going to be moving forward. But keep in mind that Mercury's still kind of basically stopped. We're changing direction, but the speed still has to be picking up here. But we'll start to feel this recognize that there will be kind of momentum starting to move forward. But again, be mindful that just because Mercury is moving direct doesn't mean you're kind of, it's done, it's over with, we're free now. Mercury is still in its shadow period. We still have to complete that shadow period. There's still going to be stuff coming up with these, like I said, these Venus type themes that have happened during this retrograde. Venus is in Sagittarius now, wanting to expand. She's going to be making negative aspects, this quincunx here, to Jupiter in Taurus. So there's still this Venus-y type energy. Venus is still ruling the south node here. So we're still dealing with this stuff, right? Still Mercury shadow. We're still going over these old grounds again. We're still dealing with this type of energy, but we're wanting to expand. We're wanting to move forward. It's almost like we kind of know what to do now through these retrogrades. We're going over this stuff. Now we're kind of dealing with it in this sense, right? So on this day as well, we're also going to have Venus in square to Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces. Like I've said before, I consider Saturn in Pisces the dissolver of structure, right? The dissolution of structure. It may feel like a block here though, because Venus in Sagittarius wanting to expand, but these blocks are coming up to be dissolved, right? This is very Jupiterian type energy. So we're wanting to see the bigger picture. It's also Saturn in Pisces is learning to go with the flow, learning to let go, to release, to surrender. Venus here wanting to move in these new positive directions, expand in these new positive spaces, see that there's more than one way to, skin the proverbial cat, so to speak, with these Venus-related themes, dealing with the relationships, money, abundance, self-worth, all of that. Venus is, of course, building in quincunx here to Jupiter. We're going to talk about that later this week because that's going to start to build up as well, even though these planets are technically in mutual reception here, meaning Venus is in Jupiter's sign, Jupiter is in Venus's sign. So usually these energies, if they're not afflicted, will have a very positive effect and they kind of combine together in a way. I feel like that is still happening despite the fact that there is this square to Saturn, there is this quincunx between these two energies, but this is almost like highlighting this energy even more. Like there's this positive stuff that wants to happen, but there's crap that still needs to be dealt with that's kind of in the way, right? With these afflicting aspects. So this mutual reception may not be as powerful, but in a way it's also kind of powerful still because all of this negative stuff and the fact that they're in each other's sign and there's been so much Venus stuff we're still in Mercury shadow through Mercury retrograde. Venus retrograde happened, in 2023. Right? We're still dealing with that stuff. There's still kind of crap to be dealt with here in terms of we know what we want to expand. We faced what we needed to face with Venus here in Scorpio. Now she's in Sagittarius. She's kind of like, made it through that, but we need to expand here now. It's still continuing to kind of get rid of that stuff, but it's not going to be like as harsh or as maybe transformative as that Scorpio stuff or as revealing. We've kind of revealed what we needed to reveal, and now things in the new directions and the new paths are showing up to take shape. Again, this can involve boundaries as well, maybe setting new boundaries, new goals and types of things that we need to do. Like I said, this is really zooming out to see the bigger picture, to see maybe there's a deception or things that we haven't really understood or we're able to see in terms of what these blocks maybe are, or the fact that we may feel controlled in a sense, but we're breaking through blocks, we're breaking through control, even though it may seem like we are being controlled. It's like this Saturn in Pisces is almost like the universe or spirit is in control, right? This is looking at this bigger picture stuff, seeing that there's something else going on here that we may not actually see. And of course, it's interesting now with Mercury direct, Jupiter direct, that we may begin to kind of see clarity on this. Saturn may be kind of waking us up to this, but again, this is pushing through certain blocks in that sense as well here. All right, so that would be New Year's Day. Let's go to January 2nd. On the 2nd here, nothing really major happening. Let's move on to the 3rd. So Wednesday the 3rd, we're going to have this last quarter moon. Excuse me again, sorry. And we're also going to have this Venus in quincunx to Jupiter hit exact. So with this last quarter moon here, we've got the moon here in Libra, square the sun. What's interesting about this, though, is that there's a T-square here as well with Chiron. So the sun is in Capricorn, building in square to Chiron. This square to Chiron is going to hit, I believe, exact on Saturday. And this could really be triggering for a lot of people. However, Chiron is now direct, so this trigger could be, we're not going to be hurt in this way anymore, and we're wanting to maybe move forward in a sense. We'll maybe touch a bit more on that on Saturday, but we may talk a bit about it, talk a bit about it now. But with this quarter moon here, this last quarter moon, last quarter moons are kind of like the last ditch effort or motivation for something before the new moon hits. So this new moon in Capricorn, Capricorn is looking at career, goals, boundaries, this aspect of maturity, the goals that we want to set, put in place. And I feel like, even though I said New Year's is kind of like this arbitrary thing in terms of our calendar, this is almost like we're really taking a look at what our goals are going to be, now for 2024, what we want to pursue, what we're really going to, do our best to try to achieve, right, through this year. And of course, with the moon here in Libra, opposing Chiron, and with this T-square here, there could be an aspect of boundaries and aspects of goals where we maybe don't want to be wounded in a sense in regards to how we felt wounded in the past by other people or our relationships, right? The moon here is in Libra, so this could be the sun also building in square to Chiron, an emotional trigger as well in terms of these relationship aspects and where our sense of individuality or sense of self has been wounded in a sense in those kinds of ways, setting boundaries, setting new goals, and I almost want to say like releasing an aspect of control, because Capricorn can be control and we may not want to feel hurt in those controlling senses anymore, but also in that sense, it's learning to take control ourselves, learning to set those boundaries ourselves, right? So that could be an aspect of it here as well. So with this quarter moon and then this T-square to Chiron, it could be a bit triggering starting on this day. And again, that sun square Chiron, which will peak again like on Saturday. So that trigger is still kind of going to continue throughout this week of, ourselves and where we kind of need to heal ourselves in our sense. And we're dealing with an emotional aspect that revolves some aspect of relationships here. Again, we're still dealing with Venus. So this is still Venus stuff. Venus is here in Sagittarius, right? Wanting to expand, see these new paths, see these new directions. She's in quincunx to Jupiter. Jupiter is in Taurus, dealing with our material things, our abundance, but also aspects of self-worth as well. So all that stuff can relate to this T-square here as that energy kind of exists. Mars is here in Sagittarius at the end of Sagittarius, ruling the South Node here, ruling over North Node in Aries, ruling over Chiron here as well, wanting to expand away from where we felt wounded, right? In terms of maybe these aspects of control, but also wanting to set certain boundaries and set new goals to where we're not going to be, stuck and hurt in this way again. Right, so yeah, and like I said, on this day too is the day that Venus is going to peak in her quincunx to Jupiter. So again, these planets are technically in mutual reception. However, like I said, there's afflicting aspects here that are causing this mutual reception to be not so positive maybe, or kind of a bit wonky. Right? So there is a frustration here. There's a frustration in how Venus wants to let go of certain things because Jupiter wants to expand in the self-worth or whatever, but there's like an integration of something that needs to happen here, right? They're kind of in each other's signs. They want to expand. Taurus can be very stubborn as well. So Sagittarius is a mutable sign. It's a very progressive sign. Taurus is the fixed earth. So they don't normally kind of get along. So there's this frustration here. Jupiter wants to expand in this abundance and self-worth, but it may involve an aspect of dissolving some kind of aspect, getting rid of like I said, this Venus is ruling the South Node here in Libra, getting rid of relationships that aren't for our highest good. This Sagittarian energy wants to see this bigger picture, this expansive. We need to expand into these spaces, right? And I feel like this is regarding really aspects of, our own self-worth in a sense, and relate to our abundance as well. So again, there's a frustration here in how we really want to expand and move forward into these spaces, and some kind of integration that needs to exist that relates to the South Node and Libra aspect, and likely with this Venus that has recently just transited through Scorpio. So whatever came up in that sense, remember Mercury still in shadow period here. So these themes that we've been going through and experiencing are still in existence and still kind of coming up through all of this. All right, let's move to Thursday here, January 4th, where we're going to have Mars coming into Capricorn. So Mars coming into Capricorn, again, Mars here ruling this North Node energy and over this Chiron stuff. There could be, as I said, this Sun in square to Chiron, building in square. We're only a degree away now. And now with Mars here, like I said, is taking action towards our goals, taking action towards boundaries, goals where we don't want to feel hurt again. Chiron is now direct, still basically technically in shadow period. Like I said, with retrogrades and all this stuff, there's shadow periods that exist. And so we're going over kind of this stuff that we've already gone over during the retrograde and all these retrograde shadow periods, but we're working to fix, we're working to heal now. And so we may be taking action towards new goals, setting new goals, taking action towards those things, and taking action towards new boundaries and things where we don't want to feel hurt again, right? Because we dealt with that T-square earlier in the week where we may have been emotionally triggered by maybe some aspects of relationships. And interestingly, the moon would have moved on to conjunct the South Node after that. So there could have been some kind of emotional release that happened during that time as well. And so now with Mars here in Capricorn, Capricorn can be very slow, but it's that mature understanding, the setting of goals, setting of those boundaries, and knowing kind of where we want to even maturely take action to move forward, to step out of these spaces, and just feeling to kind of continue to set those boundaries as well as we begin to move forward. A word of warning though here with Mars in Capricorn, I have natal Mars in Capricorn. Can be quite patient in terms of taking action and taking these things, but be careful with pushing that Mars's buttons. There can be a bit of patience, there's understanding with like frustrations and things that happen in life, but if someone keeps pushing your buttons, once you reach the breaking point of that Mars in Capricorn, you're done. So, and that could come about with whatever this trigger either was in the week or will be with this Sun in square to Chiron. If something gets triggered there, that Mars in Capricorn could also get triggered and be like, we're done. And as we're dealing with this Mars North Node taking action, South Node is in Libra here, this Venus sign dealing with aspects of our relationships, and Venus wanting to expand into new directions. Maybe there is a frustration here regarding this Venus stuff and this Taurus energy regarding self-worth, those kinds of things, and where we may have felt wounded in that way. So if that trigger comes to kind of that breaking point, there may be a point here where it's like, we're done, not dealing with this anymore, that's it. So just kind of be mindful of that this week in terms of maybe setting boundaries and kind of standing our own ground in a sense as well. So let's move on to Friday here, although there's nothing really happening on Friday. Moon entering into Scorpio now, which is also kind of interesting after that T-square moving on the South Node, and now we may be transforming a lot of this kind of emotional stuff that may be coming up, trying to Saturn, dissolving the stuff, and like opposition to Jupiter here, yeah. Still kind of triggering those same points as well. Okay, so then let's move on to the final day here. I've already kind of talked about this. This is when Sun is going to square Chiron exact. On this day, it's going to be kind of early. Looks like it's around 1:35 a.m. So it's kind of like Friday into Saturday kind of thing. But like I said, there could be a triggering aspect here, as well as the Sun is now moving into square the nodes. So in terms of where we want to move forward, again, like I said, with that T-square initially with the moon here in Libra involving Chiron as well, there could have been an emotional trigger here regarding our relationships. and, maybe where we really need to set boundaries and where the control may end up lying, or where we felt controlled or something. But I just kind of really feel like there's almost like this trigger here, because Saturn rules Capricorn. It's almost like the karma, that karmic lesson that you kind of learn through restriction. And we don't want to be restricted or hurt anymore in terms of these wounds. We want to move on. We want to move forward. Mars is here now, and with this Capricorn energy, it's like not taking the crap anymore, right? So we really kind of need to be mindful of that moving forward. So again, we're still kind of dealing with a lot of these Mercury retrograde themes, these Venus type themes that are still existing here. But I feel like it's becoming more grounded now and maybe kind of taking more action towards this. Interesting that it's kind of the beginning of 2024. So, we may be kind of setting these goals for ourselves really for the year. Goals, and I mean really for ourselves, because Mars and Capricorn and ruling the North Node here in Aries, really goals for ourselves to take action on and to just pursue and push through for this year, and to, really heal those wounds and not kind of give into that stuff anymore, or those negative hurts and stuff anymore. All right. I mean, that's really all I have for this week. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you liked it, you know what to do. If you didn't like it, well, you also know what to do. So as you may or may not know, I do these recordings like live on Twitch now. So if you want to see these before they're released to YouTube, or see kind of behind the scenes, or want to come hang out and chat after I finish the recording to ask any questions about the week, feel free to do so. The Twitch link is in my link tree, which is in the description below. And all my other links to social media and everything is there as well. I hope everybody has a great new year this week. I'm happy that Mercury is now out of retrograde, and hopefully things are moving forward a lot more smoothly now. We are still in shadow period though. So thank you. Have a great week, everyone. Take care. Bye.